So one of the first examples we're going to talk about is if you are being hit magically by someone that you're in a lawsuit with, or you were in a relationship, or you're living with, or you used to live with, because energetically, if you're in a court of law, you're not like, that's a witch, right? And the judge might be a witch and you might be a witch. So it's not about that person being a witch. It's about spiritual violations are against spiritual laws. So as energetic beings, as soul, what Jesus was trying to show us is one, everything's energy, right? Water into wine. Do you think he was being a black magic wizard? No, he was basically going, right now you're vibrating in your water, now you're gonna vibrate in your wine, okay? So his mom knew, he knew how to transmute energy. So that's why he was called to the task, not because he's a distillery. So that is to take away everybody with their subconscious of and your mouth is running and your head is running and your mind is spinning, because the stats that I've already proven over the last 28 years says if you were dealing with something, that's done. Got it? And you're gonna learn the tools and the tips for deliverance without yelling, screaming, people putting their hands on your forehead. I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm saying I think the road in which you become a deliverance minister might mean you were Team Demon and now you're telling the secrets, as opposed to you always been Team Jesus and he told you the secrets. And that's no slight to anyone. It literally is just saying it's done and it looks a different way. So remember, I did not set up to do this. This is not why I thought I was opening my business. I was helping survivors of incest, ritual abuse and torture. I was reprogramming brains for joy and happiness and healing. And the result was hexes, curses, spells, and negative energy, negative entity, negative beings were being kicked out of those bodies. But I wasn't like talking to them and say, be out in the name of Jesus, right? I wasn't doing that. But Jesus would say, now do this for that client, do that for that client. And so this is an example of if you're in court. So if you're in a court battle, I mean actual physical, like you had to sue someone who wronged you. Someone actually bragged that they could commit crimes against me and steal hundreds of thousands of dollars because racism was going to help them win. The racial bias towards Black people, the difference in income, and they assume social class because racists always assume that you're beneath their social class. So first they think you're not even gonna understand the paperwork. But just in case they also hired or are negatively practicing the use of chi, right? Then these are some of the tips and the ways that you can reveal them for them to continue their behaviors, which you can then record on camera or audio. And this takes patience, which is why you have the tools and the skills that I also teach you of how to get it off of you, not have it negatively affect you, because imagine, they really do understand that you are energy, even if you don't. And that's why you feel tired. You're not tired because you're sleepy. You're not even tired because you couldn't sleep. You're tired because something's been attacking your energy. And their vibe was so low, you had to use energy to fight to keep your energy, or something's trying to fight its way in and you're holding the door, or something came in and messed up the whole house, right? Your space. Very often you'll see in those kind of deliverance ministries where there's people and yelling and screaming and demons manifesting and talking and all that kind of stuff, that the demon will go, this is my home, this is my house, don't take me out, right? And so as soul, you need to realize your body is also your home. So first I want to talk about, there are some people who will write documents and lie in the document and then try to telepathically tell the judge they either don't see the document or the document says something it doesn't say. As long as you're pushing the blood of Jesus and pulling love and light, guess what? Something else, God, Jesus, angels that are sent, right? Embodied angels, they are saying, no, that's not true. They are saying, don't listen to that. They are saying, this is what the document says. So there's always something working for you, even when there is a human loudmouth darkness bragging about the witchcraft and spells they're casting against you. And what they count on is for you not to bring it to the public so that you don't look crazy. So I had two things for my clients. Number one, I fix crazy. And I've been fixing crazy of things that people couldn't even imagine happen to people for 28 years. So I was like, you can call me crazy if you want to, as long as I'm calling God. I didn't care. And I had to ask God, how do I show this? How do I teach hipsters to stop committing suicide because people are calling them things and really pushing negative energy in their space and trying to push them to do it? Okay. There was a young man who wrote to his friends he wanted to commit suicide. And they replied back, good, do it. Your parents will be better off without you. That's demonic. But it's witchcraft if you sent him that thought, or if you sent him things to say that to him, right? Kind of like the story of Wakako Yuritani. She's been like pretending to not be able to hear in meetings so she could have control over the meeting, and then like narcissistically do things like recruit flying monkeys, or just, you know, the sky's blue. And Wakako goes, no, it's not, it's yellow. We all know it's yellow, and you even agreed it was yellow because she's a demon, right? She's so evil that she chants and casts spells on judges on video during hearings because she counts on no one noticing, right? I don't know how she thought she's the only person who's ever seen black magic on the planet, but if you're in court with her, you need to understand that that's who she is and that's what she's doing. And you can go to the website and look at her literally doing it in court. And there was one instance where a judge was yelling and screaming at the plaintiff, the victim, and saying, why didn't you just do the paperwork? I told you to do the paperwork. And then Wakako's just chanting and chanting and chanting. She's slamming stuff because it's not working. She's trying to make the plaintiff like say things or be things or do things, and she can't, but she normally gets other people to do that, right? But you're pushing love and you're pushing compassion through your space. You're pulling it in and you're pushing it out, and you're just thinking, thank you, Jesus, I love you so much. Thank you for flowers on the planet. Thank you that there are dolphins. Thank you, right? So you're just with Jesus, right? That Jesus behind me is taller than me, right? He's taller than me. If I stop right now, you guys, and leave the stage, turn my back and walk over, you'll see how big that Jesus is. Watch this. You see now? Do you see? You see? Is Jesus bigger than us? He's bigger than us. He's bigger than them. He's bigger than any problem. He's bigger than anyone that comes for you. He's bigger than anyone coming for you, hiring other people to send witchcraft, hexes, spells, negative chi, dark chi, blocks, whatever. He's bigger than all that, and so are you, because he made you and then made the Bible so that you would know that you're bigger than that. But then they have people sitting in pews acting so stupid. You're questioning Jesus, the Bible, faith, and your ability as soul. Love is your strongest power. So Wakako, so Yuritani Wakako, that's what you call her, right? She literally is in a court of law chanting a black magic spell. Nobody seems to notice that she's not speaking English. She's just chanting a spell, and it's not her turn to talk. And usually in court, you don't talk if it's not your turn to talk, so that the judge can clearly hear each person. And the cases are unrelated. So there's times like being in school. It's not your turn to speak yet, right? And then you get a turn to speak. And then while you're sitting there, one side gets a turn and their side gets a turn. This is not even her turn to be at the table to speak. It's a whole unrelated issue, but she's so busy trying to set the room with as much negativity as she could that she's chanting the entire hearing. She's chanting the entire time you're in court. She's just chanting, right? Different types of dark magic get attached to certain behavior. So Wakako is a demon, witch, whatever. She's more like a demon, right? Attached to chanting to force her energy into that person's space so she can have them have angry fits or whatever. Or when that doesn't work, so she can tell the judge that they don't see stuff that's, already really there. And so she likes to tell people what reality is and chant to make them misread the energy. So here's what she did on that day. And she's been doing this kind of stuff for like 6 years. So that day, what she did was this. She, in all actuality, chanted an entire hearing when it wasn't her turn. She wasn't supposed to speak yet. No one told her, stop chanting, lady, right? Then, as soon as she closed out and stopped chanting, the judge went from yelling and screaming, how come you didn't do the paperwork? You had tons of time to do the paperwork. Now, of course, leading up to months before the paperwork deadline, Wakako's sending black magic, paying people in different countries to do black magic on the plaintiff so that the plaintiff energetically is in spiritual warfare 24/7 for years, so that she's trying to make the deadline, but she always has to wade through stuff to get there because she's got to move the crap, right? Out, sent, and because Wakako wasn't sufficient on her own, and Jennifer Chung wasn't sufficient on her own, and Tony Chung wasn't efficient on his own, and so they started paying people and adding more people to send negative chi, to send dark chi. So we're going to talk about how dark chi works, and that is kind of like little like Gulliver's Travels. You might have to look that up depending on your age and your, exposure to books as a child. But he's basically a giant. And then there's these whole bunch of Lilliputians, little tiny people. So Gulliver's like big, like 6'7", and the Lilliputians are like 3 to 6 inches, super small. So they decide they're going to take him down by each taking a rope and going across his body with pegs while he's sleeping. So they wait till he's sleeping, hint, hint. Remember, neuroscience, reprogram your brain, right? So while he's sleeping, they're not stronger at 3 a.m. They're not stronger at midnight. They're not stronger at 2 a.m. They don't have a time in the world that they're entitled to do stuff. They're not even supposed to still be here, right? It is because you are asleep. Take that as not a euphemism. So when you walk through the world and you're asleep and you're like, oh, what's the Raiders doing? What's the 49ers doing? But not what Jesus is doing, okay? You're asleep. When you're running around and you say, oh, let me be vegan and I'm smoking weed, so I'm natural. No, you're filling yourself with dark chi and the ability for dark chi to come in. So you need to look at Chinese medicine. Okay, I mastered Chinese medicine many, many years ago when I first finished Chinese medicine school, right? As a matter of fact, if you go to Chinese medicine school or massage school now, my senior project is your textbook. Literally, I've seen it. I didn't know, they didn't ask my permission, they stole my work, right? But I met a girl and she was like just cuckoo crazy. And I was sitting in her living room and God was like, look at that book. And I thought it was going to tell me why I always feel like she's a little weird. Like she's somebody who goes to her therapist for 15 minutes. Like she will like just lose it to the point where it'll be like, ooh, it's Tuesday. I'm tired of this planet to the point where I need to come see you. And so she can come at the spur of the moment without an appointment, call him and say, I'm on my way, and she'll see him for 15 minutes. Well, it turns out that, she was full of demons. She wasn't really crazy. She was just possessed. And that her doctor was having sex with her in those 15 minutes. You see? Yeah, so yeah, who's crazy now? How about that? So stop calling people crazy, because there's a difference between crazy and evil. And usually what we used to know in the 1500s is all crazy was considered demons. Yeah. And they would try to get them out of it. Now, they didn't always try the best ways, and some of their behaviors, because they had people contained that they could control and harm, that when the people told they were being harmed, nobody believed them because they said, oh, you're just crazy. So then the people lost their vibration by being more harmful and torturing the people that were already spiritually tortured. Okay, so Kaka's crazy like that. So I used to wonder if she knows that she's lying as much as she lies, but she always also hires people to do black magic. And so this one day, just God was like, that's it. The whole world needs to see how she acts, right? So she's chanting. The judge is yelling about paperwork. And then as soon as she closes out and she stops chanting, he looks down and says to the plaintiff, I don't know what just happened. And everybody's just looking, because it's a judge who now is kind of having a little bit of a breakdown, but not like, he's lost it breakdown, but kind of like a realization of what the heck was I just doing? I was not here type of thing. So what he ends up saying is, he says, the paperwork I said you didn't do is not just in this stack, it's on the top of the stack. He said, it's the top paper. You did the paperwork. I don't know why I was saying any of that. I don't know how any of this happened. But when you understand energy and you stick with God and you're just standing there holding Jesus' hand and opening all the channels up and let God flow through, see, that's a trick of the dark. If you close your channels, if you close your heart, right? Jesus not standing with his hands closed. Are his hands closed? No, his hands are open, because God is flowing through him. Jesus is the body of God. Got it? But Jesus is the epitome of love and light. He is the epitome. That's why it's called Christ consciousness, because when you get your consciousness to be like Christ, you flow with love, gratitude, and forgiveness, even while someone's throwing what some deliverance churches call fiery darts. Okay? Think of it as thoughts become things. So your thoughts should be focused on the things you want to come, not on what somebody else is doing. And then you will beat them, because they're putting in order. Okay, so I used to do a class for my students called Not Your Burger. And the way it works is, if someone comes into your life and they're not your burger, so you said you want onions and pickles and no tomato, and they come with tomato, and you think, oh, I could just take the tomato off. It's like, technically, if you're at a burger joint and you get tomato on your burger, what's the truth? Tomato juice came, some seeds came, something, the moisture from it changes your burger vibe. Just like it changes your body vibe, because it's not your burger. So send that person on their way. They might look like what you want. They might have what you want. They might act or pretend to act like what you want. But you better turn around and ask my boss. Say, boss, right? And you shouldn't have to look as far as I turn to that window. No, because he should be inside of you, right down the center of your body. That is an energetic point, but I teach that in one of my workshops, because a lot of people don't teach that as a healing system. But guess what? Dark chi practitioners teach it, because they know you're not going to search there to find it. If you're sitting all like, oh, let me do ayahuasca, da, da, da. No. Why would you pollute yourself and go to hell realms and talk with stuff that's stuck on the minor leagues, right? Michael calls that low budget magic, meaning What I say is you sold your soul for a cost of a sandwich, but demons give millions. So, got it? Don't do that kind of stuff. Now, other stuff are misnomers, literally falsehoods, okay? But it was 2 years of Akako doing black magic, and the people that she was defending, her clients, they were doing black magic, and then they're paying people in China. They're all being seen. They're paying people in the United States. They're just like paying more practitioners. And God's just going, nope, 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 nope. And the angels are like, not here. And so they just pay more people, pay more people. Now, what they try to do in the times that you sense it at night is because you are not distracted by the things that you gave permission over God in the day. And that would be certain types of television. And you know, I've been a broadcaster forever. Like, I have been a broadcaster since my 20s. And now I'm in, let's just say a lot longer. And I don't, I tell people my age when they ask, but usually they don't believe me because I don't look my age. I look half my age. And so finally I was like, you know what? You see me as someone who looks half my age. I see me as someone who for 24 years, I look 22 to 25. So for 24 years of my life, every time I looked in the mirror, I looked between 22 to 25, depending on if it was good day, bad day. You know how people say, oh, I'm having a good hair day, I'm having a bad hair day, right? So if it was a good energy day, I looked 22. And if somebody was trying something, I looked 25 for 24 straight years. Because we're energy. Everything is energy. You're 100% energy. And things know that. And so they want you to use your energy, either for them to use your energy so they can manifest life they want because somebody taught them use positive energy, get more blessings. That's what the Bible is talking about, right? So the fruits aren't, do you have a car? Do you have a house? Is it fancy? Is it a Lamborghini? Is it no, that's not it. It is, do you have your spiritual skills, right? Do you have the ability to transmute energy? Have you mastered it? Are you just aware that you have it, but you're not able to do it? Have you just learned that it's a thing like I just taught you, right? Or do you know it's a thing and you know how to do it so well that you know to bless your water before you drink it? That's a thing that a lot of people do now. A lot of us had teachers that taught us to teach you that you're energy by water. So right now, get a glass of water. Okay, I know you might need more time, but you have a pause button. So those of you here who don't have a pause button, you have water now. And then say nothing, just drink some. Okay, now remember what that tastes like. And then you guys don't drink the rest, right? And now, over your water, pray and say the most wonderful, beautiful, kind things you can think of on this planet. Say you're beautiful and I love you and you are loved and your life is kindness and abundance and goodness. Say so many beautiful things over that water. Okay, now my audience here present in front of me, you guys drink your water. You guys out there, you drink your water, that same water, that same bottle. See, we used to pour water for people at my retreats and stuff, and Sedona, Paris, Rome, Hawaii, wherever we were, you poured water, right? Hotels come with water. If we were out, we would take bottles of water. And then one day God said, what about the people who subconsciously think something's in the water? And so I was like, oh yeah. So we'll do closed bottle water. They'll open the bottle. Right? So now I'm gonna really go to level 2. You tasted it, and wasn't that water sweeter? That water doesn't even seem like the water that you drink. So as a scientist, right? As a neuroscientist and Chinese medicine practitioner, that first bottle of water is called the control, right? It is to say, when we're testing something to be fact, we need the starting point. So the unopened bottle of water, what I'm about to do, seemed like it was the starting point, right? But that unopened bottle of water was touched by the factory, where the factory sits, where the water flowed from. When the water got into, unless somebody's blessing it at the factory, then the truck driver, what he drove through, who he was talking to, who got in the truck, who got out the truck, who unloaded it, what they were thinking about, were they smoking, were they vaping, did they do it, are they this, are they that, right? That's what you first tasted, which is why you bless your food and you bless your water before you consume it. The second one was full of love and light because you did that. You filled that water with love and light. You did that. And then that's what it tastes like. Now, it is what it tastes like depending on your skills from the original control. So you can practice when you get it at the store, bless it or whatever. And it's not some big old ritual. Just like, I bless you in the name of Jesus. Or, I fill you with perfect divine love and light. It's not like rocket science. So now let's get to rocket science and just blow this up. That same water. So you guys, everybody, you guys and you guys and you guys, everybody say mean, evil, cruel stuff, unkind, the most horrible things you can think of. So think it and say it to the water. And then drink it. This is the part that blows the minds because you just tasted that bottle and it was sweet and good. And now your body's rejecting it. It literally, some people spit their water out, right? Because your body doesn't want that. Because guess what? Your body is the vibration temple. But that temple should belong to God and Jesus. That temple belongs to God and Jesus, no matter what you do in life, no matter who you become, no matter what you've done. I don't care if you become a full-on demon that everybody walking down the street knows you're a demon. You still belong to God. That's what creator, source means. That's where you came from. That's where you belong. So that nasty water, that's people gossiping about you. That's friends that talk crap to your face or behind your back. That's insulting spouses, lovers, or even your children. I saw a lady the other day, her child was hitting her, calling her the B word, and cursing her out in the grocery store, right? Now that grocery store has its own problems because it is so racist, it is ridiculous. All the clerks think they get to say what they want, and some of them even raise prices when they ring you up. Meaning it scans one price, and so they think racism is a superpower instead of a demon. So they take out the price and they want you to pay more. So they enter general item. General item means they scanned it, they saw a price, but they didn't think that price was high enough to cause you pain. So it wasn't expensive enough to cause you pain and make them feel better for the ability to sell their soul and do it. And technically, you guys know, what am I gonna do? Another joke, another trick. You cannot sell your soul. First of all, it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God. So nothing can trick you into that you sold your soul. And secondly, they're not trying to take your soul, they're trying to take your body and your vibe. So they fell in that as long as you stay love and compassion and stick with my Lord. Even if you're at church and they're acting like that little third thing you did with that water bottle, right? You can do that with your food. Now, final, blow it up. Not even mic drop because I'm not done teaching you. Guess what? You transmute. Oh, I didn't say you transmute the water. We've already done that. So my teacher would have said, now that you guys are listening, right? But he didn't teach this stuff. He taught other stuff. What I teach, with the exception of this knowing that water had a frequency, my teacher taught me that. And when I tell the story about eagles and puppies and lobsters, Most life coaches tell that story because most of our teachers taught us that story. Everything else God tells me and I teach you. So here's something. You as soul are in a body that we see. That body is 70 to 80% water. Things around you that you listen to, whether it's music, TV, friends, video games, enemies, spells, horror movies, acid rock, right? Classical, it all is changing your frequency. It's reprogramming your water, and you're mostly water. So it's not always something somebody says. It can be something you watch that lowers your vibe, that lowers your frequency. Now, there are some things raised to raise your frequency. So if you have a high vibrational being, so you have somebody like me, and I am playing a singing bowl, right? Stuff is going to not just leave your space, stuff is going to run out of your space because you just raised it so high in vibration that it can't be there. So you shake it off, right? But when lies become so absurd, you start to videotape that. So if you're around someone who's doing things that they know they're doing to try to lower your vibe, and you're beating it by staying love and compassion, every part of your subconscious as a human, as long as you forget your soul and you think you're human, especially right here in your heart, if you believe you're human, they're going to be able to succeed in some things because you're soul. And you need to know what energy is you, what energy is God. Put God right down through the center circle of your head. That's called the Z channel. Z, like the letter Z, or Z-E-E. People that do darkness don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that exists. Because when they send dark chi, they target the Z. Because most people don't know Chinese medicine, and most people that know Chinese medicine learn from American books. American books are missing points, and long time ago in the 1940s, it stopped being taught energy and frequency. Change the meridians, fix the chi. You can see straight through a body and see what's going on with the meridians. Because you're looking for the energy that is not light. So when I first started, I didn't know that was a thing, but I was doing what Jesus told me. So when it was time to take my test at Chinese medicine school, you have to show the points, right? So there are points, and you hold the points, or you put needles in the points. There's different stuff, right? But think of like that. That's a vaccination from when I was a little kid. And it still has some marks because that energy is not mine. And it was so jarring to my frequency. Now, other things, I've had literally cuts disappeared, right? But I cut my finger on something in a place where the person was very, very dark. I still have to heal that cut because it still has a scar because the energy of that place was in the thing that I cut my finger on. And I think the person did it on purpose because they put a dish under a weight. So when I went to pull the dish literally popped, broke, shattered. Now, singing bowls can be metal, but usually that frequency is lower, right? And you can put water in it. So there's all different things in a sound healing class. But the main thing is to understand everything is frequency. Everything can be a high frequency. And people might try to pollute you, your tools, or the room. So let's say you're playing in a room where somebody sent black magic, right? So somebody came in your house and they did black magic inside your house. Normally people do black magic inside their own house, and then they try to send the energy to you. But some people, they're more basic. Their powers don't work on you, right? See that? Look at, see if I can put my finger in Jesus' hand. Look at that. But it's more like my hand, Jesus' hand, always. So it doesn't work on you. So then some other one goes, I believe that we're supposed to attack you because you're light. So then somebody you don't even know is attacking you and they have no reason to, right? Well, let's say you literally turn on a light. Guess what? Change the frequency. You clean your house, change the frequency. You clean your house with certain things, change the frequency. You fill your house with certain music, change the frequency. Now, don't be like those people mindless in the chat telling the girl not to heal herself with frequency when God had told her to do it, right? Because that is a low vibrational frequency. Therefore, they are lowering people's frequency. It's like they're in church, but they're working for the devil because they're listening to themselves. They're not listening to God. They're not even trying to be low vibration. They just been tricked by dark chi. So they don't ask God anything. They ask each other stuff. They start prayer circles. They start Bible studies. They start fake life coaching. They do everything except for be able to transmute energy and turn it in to whatever they want. You don't have to always transmute energy into positive energy. You can name the energy. I transmute this to love. I transmute this to abundance. I bless your life with pure love and light. I bless your life with pure source energy. You see, that's saying in case you have somebody, right, like a little snake, or you have somebody going, ooh, I, put this on your front porch, or right? There have been people that put stuff on my front porch, and I asked Jesus where it came from, and he had me get on the freeway and cross a bridge and drive to a building I never been to, ring the bell and give it back to them and be like, oh, you left this at my house, it's yours. You see, Jesus is no joke. But some people are a joke, and they think they have the right to change your space when they're not realizing their space is fully taken over. And none of it is going to work on you, right? And people used to tell me, well, it doesn't work if you don't believe it. And I was like, I didn't even know it existed, so how could I be believing it, right? But that's not what it means. And so now I teach my students what if you don't believe it means. It's a set of skills. And it's also more than a neutrality. So I learned neutrality. I was taught as a child neutrality. So I could keep my honor, so I can be my etiquette, so I can be appropriate at tea or museum or luncheon, right? I learned to keep neutrality, which just meant you can't get me riled, meaning I will not be yelling, screaming, acting crazy, retaliating, nothing. But it's like the Wild West. Will you get yours? Yes, I can guarantee you that. Every bit of conquistador blood in my family line, in my body, in my soul's road, this or any incarnation, I can guarantee you that you're gonna get yours. What did I just teach you? That's the belief tool. You see? That's the belief tool. The belief is the way my church, we say this, I know that I know that I know. And then you say what you know. Because if you know that you know that you know that you know what you know, then nobody's doubt, anger, fear, envy, a reality of a tsunami coming towards you. I'm gonna picture it passing on through, walls opening up, the stuff like, I don't need there to be a physical reality in agreement with me and God. I'm in agreement with God. I'm in agreement with Source. I'm in agreement with Jesus, to me, that's all the same thing. And what I'm not in agreement is you trying to lower my vibe or trying to harm me. So I learned some skills and I learned some tools and I teach my students, because for 28 years, I was the witch's doctor, which is much different than being a witch doctor. I finished Chinese medicine school in '97, and Western medicine, became a neuroscientist specializing in the brain in 2000. So I literally reprogram brains. Now energetically, that's what spells are trying to do. Reprogram your brain, reprogram your vibe for someone else's intent, for everything that's not your highest good. So I've taught a lot of toolkits. That's what we used to call it. Toolkit, when I first started, like 99, right? 97, I guess 97. 96 when I came up with the idea. 97 when God told me to teach workshops. By 2000, they were all over the world. And so the tools are highly effective because a lot of people wanted to give me practice, meaning a lot of people did attacks. And a lot of people paid people to do attacks. And the more I would be smiling and happy, the more they would pay more people. And the more Jesus would show me what to do. But if this is the only time you've ever seen me, my name's Mia, Dr. Mia Morgan White. And I have saved the lives of over 80,000 witches. And when I say save lives, I mean, I'll explain the parts of the brain and you can see what I mean. And then, what's the stat? No, is it 80,000 or 90,000 lives? 121,000 is the current count on souls. So let's talk about the 8 brain system. I developed it, I wrote it, because I was doing a TV show, and this was 2004. And what I wanted to do, if you guys have questions, you can ask me later. Let me go through the 8 parts of the brain system, and then ask me about the systems, okay? And you can always, if you're online, you can comment or send me an email or go to the website. So I learned early on that I had gifts, but I didn't know that everybody else in the world didn't have the gifts too, right? I thought, well, eventually, like maybe when you're first born, you don't know yet, but then you're 1 and you know, but some people don't know till they're 2 or 3. But when I turned 10, my parents told me some people never know that they have them, right? Then I started meeting people who were harmed in some of the most atrocious ways. And they were survivors of incest, ritual abuse, and torture. So ritual abuse is when somebody does black magic on children, like their own children usually, or one's passed around and then horrible things happen. And then when they're grown up, society makes them feel like something's wrong with them because they met evil people. But then I kept saying, we all met evil people, so Lord, how can I fix this? And so God showed me there's 8 different parts to the brain. And that I went to Chinese medicine school first so that I could understand energy, so I could understand the meridians, how the meridians were affected by thoughts, and how I could change those thoughts and heal the meridians without needing to be physically present to work on a client, which meant I now could do that through a book while you're reading it, or through videos, or through a talk, or art, or poster, right? I can now do it anywhere. I can transmute your everything because you bought a card of my art, right? So if you close your eyes and you try to see your brain, the first thing you see is normally, unless you're trained by me, telepath or something, or somebody, or you have a spiritual gift, the first thing most people are going to see, most souls will see, a picture of a brain that they've seen in a photograph or an illustration, right? So if someone has a photograph or an illustration of a brain that you've seen somewhere on the planet, the subconscious is gonna pull that up and go, voila, this is a brain. And you go, oui, d'accord, merci. Ah, I understand, this is a brain. But most people haven't seen the brain, right? So, I don't know. God said, that's the subconscious. It means you don't know it's there, right? You don't know those thoughts are there. Well, that's where I was taught, working with Jesus and doing meditation. That's where most trauma was caught. Trauma was caught in the subconscious, and then it transferred and went into the cells, and then it affected the body, and it was trapped in the cells. So I wrote a book in 2000 about trauma being trapped in the cells, and I was doing trainings for doctors, you know, MDs and chiropractors, to say it's trapped in the cells. I clear the cells, I clear the meridians, clear the chi, right? I didn't at that time know that people sent dark chi on purpose. I didn't know that. But I was fixing it based just on me going, if it's not light, it's gotta go. If it's not God, so I would, my first phase of my practice, my private practice in helping people, the survivors of incest, ritual abuse, and torture, I would say, you know, Jesus, show me everything that's not God in the person's body. And then I would take it out and transmit it to God. Then when Jesus said, well, you know, this stuff is stored in the subconscious and the subconscious is sending it to the cells, then that meant I needed to clear the subconscious so that it wouldn't keep polluting the cells. That's where I was then. That's how the evolution of changing in consciousness and awareness works. So that's what I was aware of at that time. It was like 2002. So by 2002, I was writing about it, teaching about it, reprogramming subconscious, and people kept saying, you can't just change the subconscious, you have to use affirmations, and you have to do this. And I said, well, affirmations work because eventually the subconscious will remember them, but that's not the same as deleting what's in the way or the thing that is giving the sentence causing the problem. And there were people in the 70s who wrote books about the subconscious thought you're having that makes the body feel something that you can then fix the thought. But there was no one just going, let me just knock that thought out of you. Let me just remove that frequency. Let me remove that subconscious, right? People didn't think that was possible. People don't tend to think things are possible that they can't do. Ask anybody in the hood. Ask anybody in a small country town. Ask anybody raised as a trust fund baby. Every social group has a set of beliefs that they think are possible. So if you're sitting at the country club and you go, I'm not gonna drive home, I'm gonna fly home. Everybody thinks you mean in your jet. Nobody thinks that you think you're just gonna be so and like some guru fly through the air because you decided everything is energy, so now you can fly, right? Just like if you have a hope and a dream that doesn't include a crime or a plan for a crime or some getting over on something, they'll say, you're stupid, you're a sellout, right? Because another set of hateful, evil demons have redlined them, have robbed their education, have beat them down, did everything to try to turn them into criminals. Well, that's not new. There was a book called Utopia in the 1500s where it explained that if you take education from any society, you produce a criminal class. So in the 1500s, someone wrote, which means prior to the 1500s, someone knew that if you create a certain set of circumstances, you will build a criminal class. You will build an area, a town, most of a gender or race, that a certain set of behaviors, you will create an energetic, subconscious awareness of permission. That's what I teach my students. If you remember that phrase, it forms a reality and you start making souls take part in a reality that is hurtful to them and the world. So that's quickly, understanding the subconscious. Now the conscious is what you think you know, okay? And depending on social class and vibration, some people will literally fight you over what they think they know and be totally wrong, but that they know that that's the truth, and will physically fist fight, yell, scream, fight, right? So I don't take part in discussions. I don't sit around talking about Jesus. I don't try to change your religion. I don't care what you are. You could be like, I'm a witch and I train witches. And I'm like, great, I'm Mia, nice to meet you, right? I do not take part in duality games. Which also means don't ask me anything that you saw, that you think the phrase everyone is talking about or everyone is doing. I can pretty much guarantee you I haven't heard about it. I don't know it because I don't even have friends that do that. My friends talk about hopes, dreams, how we're making the world a better place, and how we're changing the world, because we know the rest is a trick to shrink our vibe and steal our frequency and make us lower than we should be. Okay? So I'm like Miss Manners of spiritual warfare. So let's look at the next part of the brain. So we got the subconscious, we got the conscious. Conscious is ego, conscious is I know, and what I know is all there is to know. Especially the smaller IQ, the more what they know is the only thing to know. Larger IQ, they're like, oh, let me investigate and find some stuff out, but they'll still have some sticky gummy bears, right? Things they're stuck with, more like a peppermint stick. Like, I hate peppermint sticks, but at Christmas, you get peppermint sticks. So do I still put them in my mouth sometimes? Yes, even though ever since I was a child, I don't really like it. But that means something energetically is stuck in there where you go, well, it's Christmas, and well, it represents love, because, right, I don't like peppermint sticks. I just don't. I do like those soft peppermints, but let's move on, because it's just not one of my favorite flavors. Now, these are the parts that God showed me when I do my meditation, which is why you connect with God and you do your meditation. You don't connect with other stuff, because other stuff is on other realms. And once again, lowering your vibe, okay? So, the energetic brain is not the next part of the brain God showed me. It was the historical brain. That's what we were just talking about, like the peppermint stick and the sensations that it gives. The historical brain says, throughout history of the world that we're aware of, on, what's that little cartoon? E-Arth, I want to say Earth, right? Isn't it amazing how it took us 6,000 years to figure out art, A-R-T, creativity, art, sits in the middle of the word Earth, right? But anyway, let's move on. The historical brain is what we change as what we think is reality or is possible based on the history of the world as we know it. So I'm a member of Mensa. I qualified as a child, and then I didn't understand they're just so racist, it's crazy, and it's boring. But I started a Genius Society more than 3 years ago. 3, yeah. So that, because how can you be a genius and fall for something that's not true? It scientifically doesn't run through as logic. So as a 99, that means our IQs are so high that certain genius societies, like Mensa, are considered the top 2% of the brains in the world. Now, I always have to give a little chuckle with that, because my historical mind knows that IQ tests aren't given to the whole world. So we can't be 2% of the brains in the world. It's a mathematical impossibility. What that means is you didn't test everybody. So you're not 2%. You're 2% of the tested world. Okay, which is still brilliant. But a 99 thinks of that. Because if you took that 2% and made them into $2, got it? And then you took out 1 penny, that's a 99's brain. So we are that rare on this planet. So there, or this timeline, this dimension, whatever your vocabulary for it is, this reality is what I say, because reality, you change it and change it and change it and change it. You change your vibration, you change your reality. That's what a spell is. A spell is trying to change your reality. That's what a friend that's an Iago, a fake friend that's hoping for your downfall and doing things behind your back to make you suffer. They're just trying to change your reality by changing how you view the world. You see all your troubles instead of your blessings. But you see your blessings. See, I'm so lucky to have such a giant Jesus behind me. See, I always do double entendres. I mean, Jesus is behind me, inside me, in my Z channel, plus that great window. You see? So you learn that thoughts are things and words create your world. So a spell is somebody else making words create your world. Well, the historical brain looks at a spell based on what we read in the book, right? But the energetic brain says, is that when my brain hurts because somebody's in the room and they're trying to get inside my head? I only have 8 ex-boyfriends because my mom, the shorthand that popped into my head was like, raise me right. And then the next thing I heard was my mom's voice go, that's judgmental. People won't understand what that means. My mom was a certain kind of woman, right? And so she was raised very traditionally. She was raised in church, and then she became like lesbian feminist and very political. And, it was like women's movement. It was the time period on the planet where women were like, just anything conventional, they were burning it up, right? And they were basically saying, we think these things are connected to abuse, but they didn't understand that because they were using the wrong part of the brain. And they thought if they rejected everything about being feminine, that it would stop letting them be harmed in their own homes. Well, I'm very frilly. I cook, I sew, I bake, I paint, I like to make stuff, I like to build stuff. I love power tools, I love motorcycles and horses, and I'm a scuba diver. And I probably forgot 10 things, right? But one thing I will never let you do is steal my divine gift of being frilly, of being girly, of being happy. I wear a dress 5 to 7 days a week. I do because I love dresses. It has nothing to do with you. What I teach my students is this phrase: you don't get a vote. Now that's not me saying that to my students. That's me saying, I listen to Jesus. I listen to Jesus. I listen to God. So God told me to wear this dress. God told me to sit here. God told me to wear your hair with that clip, not the other clip, right? So if you're not talking to God like that, it's a different workshop that I used to teach. And I guess I'll start teaching that one again. But it's basically how you connect to God so much that you practice until you just hear him 24/7. And then you never have to be afraid of somebody pretending to be someone else. That's why you don't talk to ghosts, right? Because they might be your Aunt Becky, or they might be some other ghost just trying to experience the earth through you, or they might be something just purely evil trying to make you lose your mind, and they're just working on the long game. Kind of like a mannequin, like when a gold digger is a demon, a sex demon, and you smiling and you're spending millions and millions on them, And behind your back, they're stealing millions and sleeping with the world because they came to destroy your hope in love. Because love is a superpower. Got it? So, got the subconscious mind, the stuff you don't know is there that other people also put there. Even commercials work on the subconscious mind. That's what commercialism is built on. Marketing is built on manipulating your subconscious mind so you don't know why you're buying this or doing that. The conscious mind, the stuff you're attached to, the ego, the id, what you know. Then you've got the historical mind, right? The historical part of the brain, where throughout history, those things influence what you think can be true, right? We used to teach holistic health. We used to teach energy medicine. We used to teach don't program anyone's brain for no, not, or none, because there was no picture in the brain for not. So you wouldn't say, I will not smoke, because then you'd be telling yourself to smoke, because the brain didn't have a picture for not. Well, now historical brain knows that's obsolete. That is no longer a truth when teaching people to reprogram brains, because there is a picture in the brain for no. Because since the 80s, they made that red circle with the line through. So now the brain does understand no pictorially, which is the secret to that part of the brain, right? So you can put stuff in a picture. That's why it's important of how your house is decorated or not decorated. Vibrationally, if your house is not decorated, you better have some good colors on those walls. Otherwise, you're lowering your vibe. Every time you walk through, you're stripping your positive energy off of your body as you walk through those rooms. But you can also decorate for frequency awareness, is what I call it. When I do spatial planning, I will come in and show you. I used to do it for $200. I was 21 when God showed me that, and I started a business, and for $200 I would come in, and this was long before somebody else started doing it as a TV show, some architect. But I did this for a lot of years before that show existed, and had my little business cards and my flyers because God showed me, and I would help you save money. So it wasn't like some people are decorators, and so they just have fun shopping with your money and going and buying a bunch of crap. And then go and look at, because they built the store display, right? So I would look at everything you have and figure out vibrationally places for it to be better. That if you were to put those things in the way that God showed me to put them, you would be happier, you would be healed. You would be healed from illnesses that Western medicine said is gonna kill you. Right? Because not everybody understands the energetic brain, but the energetic brain is the one that runs like a little tattletale baby. I don't know if you have a lot of siblings. I have half siblings, which I don't think you can have half of a sister. My mother never thought of her half sisters as half of a sister, right? So, but when you're raised in the same house at the same time and you share a childhood, the other brains are working because they're being programmed together. So in that instance, we'd have a micro historical brain. That's why I developed this system and teach it. Because that's your family Christmas. So you would have the history of the world, then you have the history of what you experience as a family. But if you raise in two different households, then that history is different, unless those two households interact. So you can't just go around pretending to be a neuroscientist. I mean, you can, just like you can pretend to be a life coach and help absolutely no one, but then have them eventually sign up to be your private student, which is what all the scripting, the subconscious scripting in everything they teach you from that free class, that's what the system is. I know, because I taught it to women who were married to multimillionaire pedophiles and couldn't leave because of the financial attacks. And I built from 1998 until 2011, what was called Unbreakable Brands, which meant you can take and run with your kids, which is something women couldn't do until the late 70s. Because of the financial tax, you get drugged right back home. They pay people to fire you. They pay towns to ostracize you. They break in and destroy everything you have, trying to make you come back home. And I experienced someone like that. And I met so many women whose children were being harmed, and they didn't know how to leave the billionaire son that they had married who were doing it. And that wasn't one woman. That was 1,100 women. In 6 counties. That's a lot of women in 6 counties. 1,100 women. And that was my first year. I'm on my 28th year now. So I don't keep my stats. Nonprofits keep my stats. People trying to find places where people get help and don't have fake life coaches and fake doctors harming them, 5150 them, doing worse in their space, right? So somebody else keeps my stats because they caught on to the stacks of classes all served a purpose for different markets, for their health and healing, for the optimal thing for their soul. So the energetic brain, you're gonna walk into a store and it'll say, don't buy that. Well, if you have low vibe and you're being intruded upon, especially like a possession or something, it's gonna make you reject anything that would make it leave. So we had to show, these are the things you buy to make them leave. Follow the list. You don't even have to put up a fight. They just leave because, so uncomfortable. Right, I don't know how to act uncomfortable. I'm generally not uncomfortable. I'm very stoic. I'm very kind and loving and fun playing, and will sit in a $2,000 suit on the floor and read stories to children. And then give that away and not attached, you know, not to ego, not to name, you know, designer brands. Like if I go to Prada store in Milan, you have to ring the bell to get in, and then they look to see what you're wearing and see if you come in. I am never in a designer anything. I'm usually in something that I made, but they always open the door for me. Either I made it or I designed it. And when I get in there, because of my vibe, they're like, oh my goodness, Mia, this would go perfect with your dress that's this, or this would go, right? And it never has logo on it, because they know if it has a logo on it, I'm not wearing it. You see, I won't even wear logos of stuff that say Jesus and God. I haven't historically, because I came back from Europe one time and everybody had these bracelets on that said WWJD. And I was like, I am so confused. And then I saw people with fabric made of it, and they had on suits, and God just kept saying, ego, not me, ego, not me. And then I saw one lady, and she had a rhinestone pin and a suit and a fur, and I was like, I love fur. And God was like, that's the devil. And I was like, dang, she's worse than all the rest. So I went up to somebody and I said, you guys, what on earth does WWJD mean? And they said, Mia, while you were gone, church started a new thing. And I was like, okay, because you know, I'm always at church, raised in church, been at church my whole life, go to church every day of my life, right? What does that mean, you guys? And they go, what would Jesus do? And I said, what would Jesus do? And I could just picture the letters, and I was like, an acronym for my Lord? And they looked, and I said, you know what Jesus would do? Not wear that, not turn his behavior into an acronym, because you don't need to wear that. You need to just be Christ-like. Oh yeah, because then people feel it. And then they also would do what Jesus would do, which is be love. But you know what Jesus would do? Never wear bracelet. Like, what would God do? I guess that would be Jesus' bracelet. What would God do? How silly. No. So I wouldn't take part. So then churches were getting mad. They're like, Mia has been hanging around with witches too much. I was like, don't call my clients witches. My clients have different magical names. And they're like, you shouldn't even know those names. And I was like, apparently you don't even know Jesus, and I learned Jesus from you. right? It's like, what is going on with you guys? Cut it out. But that was my energetic brain realizing that negative energy could exist anywhere. I don't mean it has permission, got it? Because there are places you can make your house, you can make your car, you can make your body, you can make your mind, you can make your soul, you can make your food, you can make your husband, you can make your kids, you can make your wife, you can make your best friend, you can make your parents, you can make your job. You can make a place where negative energy can't live. It can't live, it can't survive there, it can't thrive there. It can't exist, so you can't do it. And God showed me all the different ways to do it, and that's what I did. And that's what I've been teaching, and that's what now you get to learn. So the energetic brain is that. You see the energy, you feel the energy, you feel a certain way, but you're not quite sure why you feel that way. So I teach my students why to feel that way, and then I teach them how to use energy. Not use other people's energy. Okay, because I've had some students raise their hand. I've had one girl come in, she was from a certain country, and we sat down to meditate, connect to God, and I saw her like a snake, things came off of her, and she plugged into like 2 or 3 of my other students, and as she was going for my third students, I was like, you need to leave right now. I said, you can't be here. I don't know what you are, but I know you need to get out. You can't be here. And I did everything Jesus told me, and she got up and she said, why? Where else am I supposed to get energy from? And I said, thank you. See, sometimes people get to say, thank you for coming, thank you for leaving. Because they need to leave, but you just taught me a little something in research. And that was years ago, no more than 10. And so I learned that some people don't plug into God or Jesus. They're literally taught in an entire continent to plug into you and suck you dry. That's why you be tired, or that's why you hoped for something. You see? Because your energy is a magnet. I use a superpower magnet. I use being loved. I use not listening when people, like hipsters, they did not understand that their opinion, I'm like, what? If 1 million of you say I'm an orange, I'm not gonna turn into an orange. So opinion does not create reality, but it does affect your frequency if you allow it. So we had all those people starting saying, I got no F's to give. You know the F I mean. And I was like, Lord, I don't even want to take part in that F. And God was like, yeah, wake up the frequency. And so I started this whole campaign about wake the F up. And everybody's like, Mia's cursing. I was like, I did curse a couple times. But I found it not to be helpful. Now, some people, cursing is their first language. And so I do have an ex-boyfriend. I only have 8 ex-boyfriends, but we'll now have 9. But that's his first language. So it's almost like he can't hear me unless when he's just so crazy and out of control that I use like 1 or 2 curse words very calmly for him to realize you and your demon need to check, right? That is an energetic game that the last part of the brain plays to basically go, I see you, I see what's happening, let me step into your realm, let you have it in your realm, drop you like a hot potato, blow up the place, and walk back to my realm. People should never mistake kindness for weakness. And as long as you do, evil's gonna keep taking you around and around. What I teach my clients and I teach my students, right? My clients, I just do whatever Jesus tells me, and then they go off and skip and happy in their life, no matter what you've done to them. They're 100% healed, and they stay that way, and nothing else can get them after that. Doesn't work. I got 28 years. Never harmed them again. Nothing has ever been able to harm them again. My students want to know, right? They might have been born with gifts, or they might be in a practice or a belief system, a religion, a magic. They might be somewhere where they're going to be constantly interacting with low vibration or darkness, or people trying to fill them with dark chi. Or they might come from a family that's made of dark chi, okay? So what I taught them is, like, if you have a shark and the shark's jaws are open and have you in the mouth, and the shark is above the water going round and round, and you're just screaming. Guess what? The shark does not care. And you screaming in the open ocean, so who's gonna hear you, right? So, and if a hipster hears you, are they even gonna help you? Hipsters know how to mess with them. I love you guys. And your narcissistic, crazy little selves. You be too much for me sometimes. Remember, be nice. So, if the shark has you and the shark's doing this and you're screaming, that does not stop the problem. So the problem has you and the problems. So you punch it in the face. I'm a scuba diver. Scuba divers, you don't outswim a shark. You wait for it to come for you. And you punch him in the face. And then he gets shocked because he thinks he's the biggest predator. Well, you know what? People have shark skin boots, but sharks don't have people skin boots. You might be primal and dumb enough to try to eat me, but you're not smart enough to pull me out the water and turn me into shoes and walk on me like I am you. See, so that's what you're telling the shark. So you're telling the shark, you're not the most dangerous thing in this ocean. And then the shark gets stunned, so the problem backs off, tries to recover like a boxer. And then that gives you time to change your vibe, change your frequency, change your timeline, change your realm, change your job, change your relationship, end your relationship, change your career, end your friend circle. You see, all those things that were that shark. You need to let that shark know, I'm not staying in your mouth anymore. You don't have to take him out the water and make the boots. But God showed me the cowboy leaning against the wall with the boots. And he's like, when cowboys get millions or billions, or trust my baby cowboys, they have shark skin boots. There's a reason they have shark skin and alligator and stingray, because those are the biggest predators in the waters that they inhabit. And the cowboy is just saying to the world, I'm not scared of predators. I, as a lady, don't really think that's something I need to announce in the world, because I'm girly and I just like being me, and I don't go around challenging predators. I don't hate witches. I don't even dislike witches. I don't even dislike Wakako. She's a demon and she's been doing stuff for 6 years. I've just been filming her and turning her into a TV show. It teaches you a lot of spiritual skills if you watch it or look at the website with her name. But it's almost like she's just so demon driven that she can't stop herself. So, Jesus, right? I don't need that in that judgmental church way. For some reason, God keeps telling me that phrase, but remember the 8 parts of the brain? We have to get through the part that says, you love God, so you must hate me. Somebody in church was tricked by dark chi, because that's not what I believe, and that's not what the people that I was brought up around believes. That's not what my church believes. That's not what the church I grew up believed, right? My parents even tricked me. They taught me drinking, smoking, cursing, gambling is the devil. Now I tell a joke. Turns out the devil is the devil. And drinking, smoking, cursing is a way that things get into your spiritual space. But there were a lot of other things that were the devil's, mom and dad. Grandma and grandfather. My grandfather is such like a gentleman. I mean, he was not a superhero. He did some stuff, okay? But by the time I was born, he didn't do any of that stuff. And so I was like a fan club. I loved my grandfather so much. But my grandfather was not like a pop or, you know, all that stuff people call their grandfathers. No, my grandfather was a grandfather. Yeah, with a closet of suits about 8 feet long. Like the most beautiful valet closet. Sometimes I wish that I could just do an architectural blueprint of that closet, because it was like the most perfect closet for a human, let alone a gentleman. Like the space was just perfect for suits. I know now people just turn old bedrooms into a whole bunch of shelves and it looks like a store and they think they have a spectacular closet. But I've always felt that a spectacular closet is one you can use. Like in my old apartment when I lived in Oakland, California, I had what I felt was the perfect closet. I mean, I've had way bigger closets, but that closet, I could come home, walk through my front door. As I was walking through, get undressed. By the time I got to the end of my closet, by the way I arranged it, have on a ball gown, you know, appropriate shoes for the ball gown. Within 10 minutes, I was out the door, fully dressed for a ball. It used to take me 2 or 3 days to get dressed for a ball. Ask any girl, right? Any girl that likes ball gowns and goes to fundraisers or balls. It takes days to get prepared. But that closet made it that I could be dressed for business, dressed in a little dress, dressed in a suit, usually like 1940s perfect little doll, like Lauren Bacall walked into Humphrey Bogart's office. And just by the end of those 6 feet, I guess it was about 15 feet long. And by the time I would get to the end of that closet, I already took off my suit, put everything where it goes, put those shoes up, figured out which ball gown I want to wear, and was getting dressed on my way back to the front door. And when I would get to the front door, it would be like 5 minutes. Like one time, the little neighbor boy, he was so cute because he knew I reprogrammed brains. He had an energetic brain where he'd come from Africa, so he knew I had spiritual gifts, and he knew, he would call it a healer, right? And so he knew that, and so we would say hi and stuff like that. And he'd see me go in my apartment, and he saw me that day. He was out in front of his door playing, and because it was like a building where you like buzz in and all the, you know, this kind of pomp and circumstance. And he saw me go in my apartment, and I was in a suit, you know, suit, corset, hanky, and right? And then he saw me 5 minutes later walk out fully dressed for a ball, hair change, rhinestone pins, he was like, "You really are a fairy princess." He said, "You look so beautiful, Princess Mia. You look so beautiful." He said, "You're magical. How did you change to princess so fast?" And I was so filled with love and joy and gratitude because he comes from a place where there's magic. And so to him, you cannot take 3 days worth of preparation and do it in 5 minutes without magic. But it was Jesus. Jesus gave me that apartment. Jesus told me how to arrange my closet. Jesus gave me every dress, suit, ball gown, corset, shoes, everything in there. I have a personality that is different, but that's because I stick with God. But my results, 100%, full recovery. Every client, every student. There's been twice when people tried to come as a client so they could try to steal my ideas. But I'll tell you a story my godfather told me to explain that. Excuse me. So, this is the lung meridian. If you cough, hit it. Now that's part of Tui Na. Then someone culturally appropriated it and started calling it tapping. But you have to be careful. There we go. I had energy that needed to move, so I moved it. If you don't move energy when it comes up, it goes back, it stays put, or it bothers you because it's trying to get out. Like kind of like, okay, fine, I'll leave, right? And if you ignore it, it's like, oh, thank goodness I get to stay. You were chasing me out. So when you deal with the 8 parts of the brain, The physiological part of the brain is what most people fail to ever understand, but is always highly affected by you eating chemicals, junk food, and different types of medicine. Because the medicine is needed to chemically adjust you back to a balanced frequency, right? So the physiological brain is the chemicals our brain naturally releases into the body to have it do things. If someone's brain is off because of other energy, entities, beings, demons, hexes, curses, spells, gossip, liars, cheaters, stealers, betrayal, heartbreak, polluted water, right? Then you can get things that you take to temporarily balance, but the balance is always temporary because the energy, the being, or the spell is still there. So you get those out, and then you don't have to worry about different imbalances. But some people have natural imbalances based on family bloodline structures to help them balance certain behaviors. They take those things. But when you eat junk food comes with chemicals that aren't part of your natural physiology. And so they do something else to your chemical brain. Could be anything. It could be bloating, it could be anger. It could be having 2 fits or standing in line for 5 hours to get a chicken sandwich, right? Those types of things, I don't know, I cook 3 meals a day, I cook like a restaurant. I cook vegetarian food, Mexican food, Chinese food, vegan, and soul food, like a restaurant. But my favorite is to bake. Even though I don't like sweets, I don't eat sweets, only the frosting on red velvet cake and my own peach cobbler and my own ambrosia. Everything else I cook it, but I just don't like to eat cake and sweets. So that would be how my physiological brain works. I don't let things chemically mess with my brain. I learned that from my mother when I was little. When they realized how high my IQ was, they wanted to give me medicine to make my brain slow down. And my mom thought it might affect my gifts. And so she'd rather have a genius kid and get me books every day than to turn me into a zombie so other people could feel comfortable. So thanks, Mom. Great job. Kisses, Ernie. So my mom's dead, and for those of you who don't know, my mom's dead, and I had a memorial for her so that she can be celebrated in the lifestyle she chose, as opposed to what people she was raised with were ashamed of, and so they had a different one for her. And then they let a villain that had brought the spiritual intrusion and darkness into her life be present, because they were taught to cover for darkness if it's in your family. They learned that from childhood. So now you have all the 8 parts of the brain. If you figure out how they're working together or not, who's doing what or not, then you could understand what I do, which is work with all of them, reprogram the brain, remove all trauma, remove all dark chi, and take out the bad programming, put in a programming for who you want to be, and then God called it solidify you. So then other stuff can't get in your brain and mess with you. And your historical brain gets cleared, so those things don't become part of your actions. Like, for a historical brain I used to have was every time I went to the store I bought taco sauce, because I'm Black, Mexican, Cherokee, and Irish. And so every time I went to the grocery store, I bought taco sauce. But in truthful reality, I didn't cook with taco sauce because I didn't want chemicals in my body. And I also didn't want to have to make, taco seasoning. And I did not want to have to make taco seasoning from scratch, because that's like mortar and pestle and everything, which is why people just buy it in a package. But I chose not to eat that way because I didn't want chemicals in my body. And by doing that, I was working from a historical brain, and I would open my seasoning cabinet, and I wouldn't keep it in there because I never use it. I would keep it in the canned foods because that was historical programming from my grandmother, who always needed taco seasoning for things she was cooking, which were just fabulous and delicious, like nobody's business. She cooked 3 meals a day, had a 3-story house, 6 kids, husband, and ran 3 companies. That was my grandmother. And she taught me how to sew when I was little because she was master seamstress. So I've been sewing since I was 4 because of her. And then I took home ec every year. And so my grandmother was really incredibly strong as a person and kind and good-hearted as a woman, but also very much trapped in the reverse of a safety net for her generation. So if you were a woman and you weren't safe at home, you still had to stay at home. And the more kids you had, it was like the more anchors you had to keep you there because it would be even harder to leave. And she was the youngest of 9. And then she had 6 people because she loved being a mom. But back then, kids weren't your choice. Back then, your husband chose intimacy, and intimacy resulted in pregnancies. So, when you think of the historical mind, I didn't need any of that in mine, just like you don't need it in yours. So I reprogrammed my brain and took it out, and then I stopped buying taco seasoning. Instead of having like 15 packs of taco seasoning falling out my cabinet when I would open it, old packs, new packs, because I was buying like a robot. Historical brain says, buy this. But the historical brain needed to be changed. Sometimes all the parts need to be changed, right? Usually the physiological part does not need to be changed unless you're eating a lot of junk food or doing drugs or something. And then that's not my population, because what God showed me and the clients that I had who had other issues but then had those as side issues, that's how evil gets in your space. And there are different ways that different things that you do to alter your awareness changes being aware of the energy or the frequency that you're carrying. So if you guys have questions, you can go ahead now. And if you're online, you can write to me or go to the thing. And if you want me to teach you the class based on how to get rid of narcissists in 36 hours or less, I'll be glad to do it. And it works, and they'll be gone forever. No more whining about soul ties and chatting about it in threads for years.